Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about the 3-day visit of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to France. During this 3-day visit, actually the President met with the French President Emmanuel Macron, as well as important leading French figures and businessmen, and together Egypt signed 16 cooperation agreements with France, including agreements in the field of transport and other to support small and sized enterprises. During President Sisi's visit, also the agreements included 3 memorandums of understanding signed by Egypt Minister of Transport Hisham Arafat, as well as a cooperation agreement between a French company and the Egyptian Railways Authority for training the workers of the authority and more. And to shed more light on the political and the economic importance of this visit, I'm happy to have with me Professor of Economics as well as political analyst, Dr Mostafa Reda Politial. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, sir. And first of all, to talk about this important visit. And we can see the delegation even of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi accompanying him in this visit, nice. And the level of the meetings that were held over there in France. So let's first of all talk about the importance of the visit meeting. We are talking about Minister of Interior, we're talking about parliaments, we're talking about businessmen, French companies. I think this is a very, very important visit, in addition, of course, to the agreements signed.
Definitely, before talking about the agreements and the visit, we have to have focus that the relations with France has been taking since a long time ago. Since the late President Nasser, we had very good relations, passing through President Sadat and then President Mubarak, and at present with the President Sisi. The relations are not only on the economic side, they're on the political side. Usually France took a lot of initiatives to solve the peace process, and also was a supporter of the 30th June turnaround or revolution which occurred. And on the other side is a major player in the European community. It's one of the big countries that has a thrust in the European community. So all these factors combined gives us a picture or a reflection about the type of relations that will take place. And as Judge you mentioned now, they're not only economic relations, they're on all aspects. So certainly, and it was reflected by the delegation which accompanied the President to this visit.
Yes. Doctor, actually there were so many topics discussed. Of course, on the regional front there were talks about the Libyan crisis, the Syrian crisis, and means of cooperation to resolve it. There were talks about fighting terrorism. I'd like to start first by talks about fighting terrorism, the importance of it, and how can the two nations cooperate together in that field.
Certainly, this is a very important issue, not only for France and Egypt, but for the whole region and for the whole the worldwide community, because terrorism is not only focusing on the Middle East; it's spreading all worldwide. So again, the methodology I assume that the cooperation can take place would be a certain exchange of information and tracking these terrorists. You see, we should know where they are located and where they're located inside these countries, probably because there are certain terrorist organizations or personnel, if you want to call them, in France and in Egypt, you see, and they move. And sometimes also on the same side, we should track their in and outs when they leave the country and they come into the country. Yes. However, I think now the borders are quite well secured after the events, the recent events we had, especially on our western borders. So it's really a cooperation between the two countries in managing the information itself about these, in order we could track them and control them. And probably, I don't know if you read the papers, since 2 days ago, we had another initiative taken by the army, and they attacked a great number of terrorists and they destroyed them. So certainly it's not enough that Egypt itself plays this role, because as I said, they're spread all worldwide, you see, and they're moving, they're not staying in one place. So it's the information about the persons and tracking them, where they're going in and out.
Talking about the agreements that were signed as well, because this is also of great importance. We have some agreements that are, they will come soon into reality.
Right.
I mean, it is not something intentionally to take place in the future. So how do you see it? For example, if we're talking about solar energy in Aswan, for example, and providing job opportunities, talking about Mansoura, talking about education, and the idea the idea of bringing the French university here in Egypt as well.
Yes.
I think this is something we need to talk about, because we always say, for example, during many other previous visits, we talk about many of the agreements, many of the projects to take place, and we wait to see the implementation. But this time it is different.
Right. Certainly, the most important aspects were, as you mentioned, the education system. And the President admitted this in his visit in the press conference, that we have a problem about the education system. It's not up to our standards. On the other side, we had an agreement, a very, very important agreement with the railway system. You see, our railway system, as you know, needs to be revamped. Since 40 years, no development projects, on the technical side I'm talking, were undertaken. So certainly the revamping and the restructuring of the railway system again is a very, very important in this aspect. Also, I would like to remind our audience that France has participated in the first line, the metro line, the Merg-Helwan line. They have executed it and managed it for some time. So they have a lot of experience in this domain. We are in the process, or the government is in the process of expanding the metro system by adding new lines and all that. Certainly maintenance is very important. I think a contract has been signed in order to maintain the first line, which was erected by the French. On the other side, we have also the health system, you see. The hospitals, managing the hospitals, they're very good in this domain, and we had certainly an agreement in this respect.
Yes, Doctor. In addition to that, Egypt's Minister of Trade and Industry, Tariq Qabil, and Deputy French Minister of Treasury, Thomas Cour, have also signed a joint cooperation agreement in the field of entrepreneurship. The importance of entrepreneurship and, of course, the support, especially of small and medium-sized enterprises.
Well, this is very important because these small and medium-scale enterprises represent a great scale in the economy, you see. They represent, and they are not very well organized. France has a lot of experience in this domain. Certainly, I expect that with the Social Fund of Development, there will be certain agreements in order to reactivate and get the French experience here in order to upgrade these projects. Again, we have a lot of support from the government. The central bank recently had an initiative in order to finance these projects at a low percentage rate. On the other side, there's a lot of initiatives also by the USAID agency in training and upgrading these projects. So certainly, with the efforts of France and the experience, these represent a very, very important sector. And the point is that these projects are going to solve the unemployment problem because they are human resources intensive. They use a lot of people, you know, because they do not have the means to get machines and
I think
high
this will
technology.
support in this respect directly and indirectly.
Yes. Sure.
Of course, providing job opportunities from one side. On the other side, it will put pressure when it comes to the development of human resources.
Exactly.
That definitely you have to train your people, you have to prepare them for these projects
And we've been talking about this a long time ago. So probably, and the vocational training as well is very, very important. So
actually, vocational training is one of the most important, it is the pillar of all these projects.
Definitely. So probably all these agreements, in addition, you see, as you just mentioned now, the industry, you see, we have a lot of factories which are closed down because they have the lack of probably management skills And I think also the lack of human resources. It's very difficult to find qualified people to fill these jobs. So probably these two gaps will be handled by these agreements, and hopefully we'll be benefiting from the France experience in the small scale and medium enterprises again.
Well, also in terms of meeting the businessmen, the president met with several businessmen, as well as, of course, the French Finance Minister Bureau Le Maire. Now, the importance, as we were talking about, bringing the investments into Egypt, especially with the current developments that is being undertaken, and, of course, the new investment law.
Certainly, again, we don't want to rely again on the investment flow on itself, because this is part of the problem. But again, as we mentioned, we have to encourage to have the macroeconomic indicators that should improve. What I mean by that is the legal system, the procedures, the bureaucracy, the upgrading of human resources, all these factors combined. The infrastructure, certainly, we are doing a lot of work now. We have the electricity, which is okay. We don't have any power cuts. The roads, we have, I don't know, there was a program since 2 days ago on the first channel outlining the achievements in the roads that have been erected during the past 2 years. So this is part of the problem. But again, we need, in order to encourage investments, that we need to cut down the paperwork, as we did in the free zone of the Suez Canal, you know. If you go there, probably they have someone there which is going to be a facilitator in order to solve any obstacles that are faced by the investors. We hope that this is not going to take place only in the Suez Canal free zone area. We don't want to see this all over Egypt and especially the south of Egypt. We want to encourage the investments and want to encourage the people, because there are a lot of opportunities there, probably, but still the macro and micro indicators are not so in the favor of coming to this point.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Mostafa Reda Politial, Professor of Economics and Political Analyst, for this interview. Thank you very much, Doctor.